Thanks for finding some time for this interview. And I really think of it more of a conversation. Of course, we've known each other as I'm thinking about it, for over a decade at this point, and we've been
Oh, yeah, way
working
longer. Yeah,
together for some time. And I'm
yeah.
sure actually many of or at least some of the readers or viewers in this case, they will recognize you because we've done, several in person and, webinars on real estate and related issues. So there's that connection. But the reason I thought I would reach out to you, for this, conversation or interview, we have a good number of our clients, in our client meetings, they would bring up the idea of, moving or perhaps even retiring outside of the continental USA. So I thought, given, your situation and your decisions, it would be interesting for people to know your story. But before we get started, Jan, if you don't mind telling us a bit about yourself so that people get to know you a bit better.
Sure. So I have been practicing real estate now for 21 years. It's my actual third career. I came
Yeah.
to this industry from IT, where I
Mm-hmm.
spent 15 years and loved it, and started this new career at the age of 50, and was
Mm-hmm.
fortunate enough to become very successful over the years. Now, I didn't start out successful, I can tell you that. I have a story that would make you cry for the first 2 or 3 years I was licensed, but I hung in there, and the rest is history. And now I'm planning to sort of transition into a different look, if you will. What I've been specializing in for the last 6 years, though, is working with older adults going through
Right.
late in life move transitions, retirement, moving to senior communities, moving to be near grandkids. It runs the gamut. But it's become my passion.
Yeah.
And I think the reason it attracted me is because as I get older myself and thinking about my transition, I want to have someone like me who can come in and project manage and hold my hand through the whole thing, right? More than
Mm-hmm.
just a realtor. So I sought out some specialized education, and it's made a world of difference in my life and my practice because it's extremely gratifying to help people at such an important time in their life. So
Oh, Jan, thanks so much for sharing that part. I believe it's going to be very important again for the listeners. I'll tell you, I have a question just about that, but perhaps a bit later in our conversation today.
okay.
Uh, but for now, I'm just going to, again, dig right into this. So as you just mentioned, you've spent a big portion of your career helping other people find their perfect homes. So how did you know that St. Croix, and here it is, I spoiled it a little bit, was the right choice for you? So please, in as much detail as possible.
Sure. So I was working with an older couple a few years ago to sell their home here in Maryland, and they had met in St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where Wayne, one half of the couple, had lived for 30 some years.
Okay.
After he met Joy, they wintered there, and he would come back and stay with her in Maryland. So once she decided to sell the house, she joined him with wintering in St. Croix. And I think I sold their house in the summer of 2023, I think it was. And they said, we're going back this November and we're going to be there until April. Why don't you come visit? And so I
Uh-huh.
did.
Uh-huh.
I went
Uh-huh.
for a week in December of 2023, and I fell in love with this place. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, all over the Caribbean, and I've been to many places where I thought I could live there, but nothing grabbed me like this did. And I think what it was is, as an entrepreneur, when you travel and you go on a vacation, you've always got your phone glued to your hand. You can't stop looking at
Sure. Yeah.
emails or answering messages. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about it when I was there. I really didn't. I actually relaxed and stopped looking at my phone all the time. And I just felt so relaxed. And I loved everything about the island, the people, the lifestyle, the weather. So I decided right then and there that's where I was going to move. But I knew I couldn't do it right away. I want to keep my business in Maryland and DC running,
Right.
even though I'll be physically located in St. Croix because my team will still be here. And so I can travel back and forth if I need to. I have been doing that since 2023, as a matter of fact. And I've even taken listings from over there. With technology these days,
It's
my
amazing.
team
Yeah.
member goes to the house and FaceTimes me, and I meet the seller. We walk through the house. It's almost like being present. And
Yeah.
it's worked out really, really well. And my business is 100% referral based at this point, which is a really
Mhm.
nice place to be. So when people come to me, they already trust me. And my not being physically present isn't necessarily a
Yeah.
deterrent.
Yeah.
So we'll go with that model as long as it lasts. And I did go ahead and get licensed in St. Croix last
Yeah.
August,
Yeah.
and I
Remember.
affiliated with Seaglass Properties there.
Hmm.
And I'm actually going to be moving in November to live there year round. Like I said, I'll go back and forth as necessary for business, but that's my plan. And I'm not retiring. I call it a transition or a
Yeah.
rewiring, if you want to call it that, because I'm not going to stop working. I just don't want to work at the pace I've worked at for the last 20 years. I
Yeah.
want to start slowing down a little bit and enjoying what I've built.
Yeah.
Um, and St. Croix is a good place to do that because the real estate market there is not as brisk as stateside. So things don't happen as quickly as they do here. And it'll be just lovely. That was a deep breath you heard come out, just thinking about
Yeah.
being there.
And I'm loving all of this. And in some sense, there's so much unpack here, but I'll just, point out a couple of things here. Technology is amazing, of course, when it works. And as I'm thinking about, our own firm, we are Maryland based, and I would still say most of our clients are in the DMV area, but we actually have clients in 4 countries in 13 states. I never really thought that would be possible if you asked me
Yeah.
this question, 5 years ago or so. And I particularly like how you describe, most people and certainly most of our clients, they don't necessarily like to think about it as a, retirement. They think
Yeah.
of it as a
Nobody likes that word.
transition
Yeah.
into the next chapter. And in your case, again, that's one of the reasons I thought this would be helpful. It's such a great transition because, again, what you've been doing for so long here, again, in Maryland, in the US, you can do it at, St. Croix. But
Well, I do want to add something though, if I may.
please, uh-huh,
Think about the what retirement looked like for our parents and grandparents.
yeah,
Usually late 50s, mid 60s, maybe they just stopped working
yeah,
and just retired, right? And that
mm-hmm.
was it. Well, we're living longer these days.
Oh
You
yeah,
know, there's many centenarians in the world right now. I
mm-hmm.
think the average 5-year-old is expected to live to 105. I mean, the statistics are amazing.
Going up, up, and up.
So we're living longer. So if you retire at 65, what are you going to do for the next 25 or 30 years? Nothing.
Yeah,
Of course you're not going to do nothing. You have to figure out what else, what's your
yeah.
calling, what's your purpose, what you want to spend time on. So it's retiring from work, from maybe your profession you've had your whole life, but it's not total. I just think we need another word, and I haven't found it yet.
Well, I'm saying like transition. I feel like it's a workable one. That's the one I tend to use. Enjoying your golden years if you want to put a little bit of a, a spin from that perspective. But yeah, I entirely agree with you. Like in terms of our work, and of course our firm specializes in retirement planning. And occasionally people still refer to it as such. When will be my retirement date? But again, more and
Right.
more, it's what's next for me. That's how that question is usually framed.
Right.
So, well, but a little bit more about you though. So, and again, you're now transitioning. You'll be in St. Croix, full time in November of this year. So, when you're there, what does your day look like? And again, you're still very much involved as a realtor.
Well, my days are pretty easy. I what I tend to do is plan my social activities and book appointments around them. So,
Okay.
tennis, social, cultural events, things like that. And it's very difficult to start over as a realtor in a brand new market. So it sounds like I just party all the time and go to social events. But you know what? I'm building my sphere,
That's right.
right?
Yeah.
I don't like to buy, I will never buy leads, and I don't like to chase business. I like to get business through relationships. And
Yeah.
that involves meeting people. And in a new territory, nobody knows you, nobody trusts you yet. And it's important to build those relationships. So I've joined the yacht club, the tennis club, the art
Mhm.
museum, anything out there where I can go and meet new people. And I don't treat them as networking events. I don't pass
Yeah.
business cards. I just meet people. And eventually, over time, they'll start giving me business because they will get to know me. but that's what I spend my days doing. And it's not all parties and networking though, because I keep a beach chair and a towel in my trunk because there's beaches all over the island, needless to say.
Yeah,
So if
yeah.
I'm between meetings or appointments and I feel like stopping and having lunch on the beach, out comes the chair and the towel from my trunk, and I take 45 minutes and just relax and chill.
Well, and
It's a great way to live.
that's great, Jan. And of course, and I get it from your perspective. It makes perfect sense, frankly, as a realtor to do all of those things. I will say this for many of our clients or just people who are listening, there's something to be said about being creative. Again, when you think about your next chapter, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You don't have to be just leisurely playing pickleball all day. And I'm not trying to pick on pickleball. It's a great sport. And at the
Yeah.
same time, you don't have to keep going and going and going. You know, there's some issues with that too. It's finding that balance where you're still useful, you do what you do, and you benefit from, in many cases, decades of your experience. So I mean, it really sounds like you found that sweet spot.
Yeah, I feel like I'm
So,
not ready to stop work completely, but I still want to be doing something. And what do I know better than real estate? So
makes sense.
there you go.
Okay, now I'm gonna kind of move toward perhaps a bit more practical questions again for those who are, listening, considering a move like this. And of course, as a realtor, it goes without saying you know more about this than most people. So if someone is considering that, and let's say they're serious about, retiring St. Croix, I don't know, Mexico, Canada, you name it. So what are some of the practical steps from your perspective that they should take now?
Well, if you decide to settle down outside of the country, whether it's the continental US, such as the US Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, or somewhere overseas, you really should go visit several times before you make that decision. I mean, like I knew in December 2023 that that's what I wanted, but I needed to get my team positioned to take over here. And I knew that was going to take at least until the end of this year. So I have been back and forth probably a dozen times
Mm-hmm.
and have spent a month each time, although one stay was 3 months. Because vacation is one thing, but real life is another. And I think you really need to go and spend lengthy amounts of time in your chosen destination, or maybe you're shopping for a destination. So spend a month in Portugal, spend a month in Spain, Costa Rica.
Mm-hmm.
Don't limit yourself and take your time and do proper due diligence. I think consider the way of life, the weather, the cost of living, transportation, that kind of thing. It's I did so much due diligence, even though I knew that's where I wanted to go. I was prepared to have something scare me away or change my mind, but every time I went, it was just reinforced that this was the way to go. In fact, I even went in hurricane season one year just to see what it would
Just
be
to
like. I
see
went
what it's
in
like.
August, and I experienced it was Tropical Storm Ernesto. He wasn't quite a hurricane. And we lost power for 3 days. So I was stuck in the condo. I had all these power banks, that kept me going
Yeah.
and connected to the world. And I had water, but no electricity for 3 days. But it didn't scare me away. What did freak me out a little bit is the morning that the power came back on, just before it did, I got a voicemail message from the Virgin Islands Emergency Management saying there's a tsunami warning. And I'm like, kidding me?
Yeah.
Without power for 3 days, now we have a tsunami warning. So I called
Wow.
a friend and he goes, don't worry, we get those all the time. They never get close enough to have an effect on us.
Wow. I would not want to receive a message like that. Yeah.
No, I get them all the time now, but they never hit us. They're too far away.
Hopefully that's going to continue to be the case. And here, Jen, I just cannot, like, this is such a great piece of advice. And frankly, I mentioned that many times to our clients. It's one thing to go somewhere for a vacation, even if it's an extended time and a few weeks, maybe even several weeks. And it's very different when you live there. I mean, again, you're experiencing that, but like what I keep hearing from our clients, I went to North Carolina to visit my son. I liked it there for a couple of weeks. I'm really thinking about moving there. It's like, hold on for a moment. Consider maybe an extended term lease before you do something else. Do your due diligence. Make sure it's the right move before you, in some sense, commit to it. And then you have to unwind it, which will likely
That's
create
harder to
many more
do. Yeah.
issues.
And if you could even
You
stay
know,
for a 3-month period, that's ideal. I tell you, I used to own an
yeah.
investment property in a 55 and over community in Hilton Head. And I used to rent to people who would stay for 3 months at a time before they purchased there because they want to experience the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's the ideal situation. So if that can be done.
I agree. Again, I'm entirely in agreement on that point. Well, but again, back to you, Jan, and I know you mentioned November of this year as the actual full-time transition, but at least based on your experience so far, do you feel like you're going to miss something specific about, being in Maryland or in a DMV area once you move to St. Croix full-time?
Well, I'd like to say I miss all my friends, but I can stay in touch with people and they can certainly come visit me. So no, I'm ready to leave the traffic and the humidity and the fast pace. Definitely ready.
Well, that again, I wanted to ask this question, but I'm not surprised by your response because you planned it and it's been, multi-year transition. So it's not like there's just a cutoff and,
Right.
you're done. So that makes perfect sense to me.
Thank you.
So what surprised you the most about the move? Anything that was really surprising, perhaps even unplanned?
Oh, well, before I forget the thought that's in my head, I wanted to say when you do pick the place that you want to settle down, if it's out of the country, don't buy right away. Don't be in a hurry to make a real estate purchase. There's nothing wrong with renting for a year to make sure you made the right decision. And I say that because I've run into so many people who moved to St. Croix and within a year realized it was a mistake. There was some aspect that they didn't like or couldn't handle, and they went back home. So just word of caution. So what surprised me the most? Well, probably the realization that I'm on an island and everything has to be imported.
Yeah.
So the prices are a little bit higher. And it's all relative though, because if you come from the area where we live, right, the cost of living is already high. So it's not like going to St. Croix and paying grocery store prices that are similar to the DMV. It's not that big of a difference for this area. Somebody coming from, middle America, for instance, might get shocked by the increase in the costs because everything has to be shipped in. So you're paying shipping fees for that. But on the good news, there's no state tax. And I believe the income tax is it's at a lower rate. And if you open a business on St. Croix, they've got amazing tax incentives for people who open businesses. And if you employ at least, I think it's 5, it might have increased to 10 people, you can get 90% off both your business and personal taxes.
Wow.
It's huge.
Never even heard about such an incentive. That's incredible.
It's amazing.
Wow.
And there's a lot of exciting things going on there right now. There's still evidence of hurricane damage from years ago. But there's federal money that is still being released to the island for, correcting all that infrastructure. And we just got, I don't know, some billions of dollars released and so all these contractors are coming on island to fix things. And there was a Marriott out on the West End called the Carambola Resort. Beautiful, beautiful setting with a golf club, a tennis club. Marriott sold that property just last month to Club Med. So Club Med is doing a total renovation of the property, and it's due to open late next year. That's going to bring a lot of people to our island and create a lot of jobs, and it's going to be really good for the economy.
Wow.
And Club Med will enjoy all the tax incentives that St. Croix offers, or the Virgin Islands offer. That same applies to St. Thomas and St. John.
That's great to know, Jen. Again, one of those things I know in terms of income taxes, there are places that make it favorable for you, but that's a huge tax deduction if you're interested, of course, in building a sounds like a smallish size business.
Well, no, it could be a big one too. I mean, but you have to have a minimum of 5 or 10 employees.
Okay, so it needs to be, that's right.
For me,
it needs to be more than that.
I won't have any employees, so I can't take advantage of that. But
well, fair enough. So one question I also have to ask, of course, this is not possible, but if you could take the time back, and something tells me, again, it wouldn't necessarily change your mind, but would you do anything differently, based again on what you learned about St. Croix and your transition so far?
No, I wouldn't, because as I said earlier, every time I go, it's my decision is reinforced.
Yeah.
And it's such a welcoming community. I've made friends. People embrace the idea of me coming there. And there's so many like me that come from stateside that either
Hmm.
live there full time or spend 6 months out of the year there. Um, so no, there's nothing I would have done differently. I think I like the way I did it in a slow, deliberate manner, doing all that due diligence and research and knowing that there was a possibility it would fail and keeping an open mind about it. And now, almost 4 years later, it's still, I know it's the right decision.
Well, again, not surprised by that at all. And specifically given your background as a realtor, of course, who helps people transition. And you've seen a lot when people transition, maybe it was not the best one. And I'm sure you've seen very many that are exceptional. So that is, again, that is the value that you actually add to the people that you work with. So, but again, not surprising. Well, and the final question, I always ask this, anything that you would want the viewers to know, anything that I haven't asked or something you thought about that would be, a point that you would want to leave them with.
Would this be related to real estate as you approach retirement or to relocating out of the States?
Mostly relocating because
Okay.
that's the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I guess take your time, do your due diligence. Like I said,
Mhm.
go for an extended stay if you can. Do research online, talk to people who have moved to these locations if you can connect with them even on social media.
Yeah.
In Europe, they're called expats. In St. Croix, they're called statessiders. So, because it's
Aha.
still US.
Learn
Oh, and
something
because
new.
it's US territory, you still get your
Right.
Medicare benefits, you still get Social Security.
Hmm.
So that's the beauty of it. You don't have to change all of that and worry about that. So I will, a word of caution in St. Croix in particular, healthcare is not the best. The hospital was badly damaged by the hurricane and still not rebuilt. So it's important that you get medical evacuation insurance. And
Yeah.
it's only about $250 a year. And if you affiliate with a doctor on the island and you're injured badly such that the hospital can't treat you, that doctor can get you to Miami or Puerto Rico to, very quickly on a helicopter to get the treatment you need. So it's important to think about that. If you have any serious medical condition that requires you to have constant care or advanced levels of care, you might think about that before you make a decision.
Well, Jen, but that's in my mind, you kind of nailed it just now. I mean, I'll just quickly share when at least some of our clients decided to do their research and they looked at different places, in the US and outside of the US. I can actually think of the top of my head where it all boiled down to healthcare. They like
Mm-hmm.
the place, they like the price, they've been there many times before, but then, obviously perhaps at this stage in life and going forward, that becomes, more important. And that's I would definitely put it as top three, if not the top factor to consider. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that.
One other thing I want to mention is that there's also a lot of opportunity to build there. We have over
Mhm.
350 pieces of land for sale of various sizes.
Ah.
And while it is costly and takes a long time to build from scratch on St. Croix,
Hmm.
I have been working with some manufacturers of manufactured homes
Hmm.
that they're one's based in the UK, one's based in North Carolina, and they assemble these homes as kits and deliver them to the island. And then you hire a general contractor to put it all together and
Yeah.
finish it off. And to build a home in St. Croix could take 2 to 3 years. This process could happen in a year. And
Much faster. Yeah.
depending on the size of the land that you buy, you could buy a piece of land on a half-acre lot, depending on the view, for 80,000, and spend, depending on the model you choose, 100,000 on a house, a 2 bedroom, 2 bath. It's much more feasible to make that happen, and it takes less time. And these are hurricane resistant homes.
So they're
So
built
I
specifically for that reason.
Yes, and they've
Yeah.
done a lot of work on the islands. They've got homes that have resisted hurricanes. So I was really excited to learn about this opportunity. So I did want to mention that.
Well, and I really appreciate that. What comes to mind, and I hope you're not going to find it too laughable. Every so often, my wife and I, Michelle, if you met Michelle, we like to watch HDTV. And that's what they talk about the catches, of course, they always show it to you in like a 30-minute,
Yeah.
increments, so you kind of see everything from A to Z. Like you said, get year 2 or 3, they show it to you in 30 minutes, so it gives you that impression that things like that happen quickly, but which is not always the case. But in terms of the prices, yeah, I hear you, it can be very attractive. And yeah, specifically when people perhaps transition from a place like Maryland or the DMV area. So that's a great point.
Yeah. And I also wanted to mention that St. Croix has a lot of natural beauty and there's so much to do there. In addition to the cultural events, we have theater, we have a wonderful art museum, lots of cultural events always going on, lots of tennis, pickleball, golf, big on scuba diving and snorkeling and water activities, of course. Lots of rainforests, tide pools that are just amazing. There's one tour where it's called Cruising Cowgirls. They take rescue horses and you ride through the rainforest on these rescue horses, and then you ride them into the water. And turtles, you can go watch turtles hatch. I mean, there's just so many things to do for all types of interests.
That's awesome. As we talked earlier, there's something to be said about staying active, just like you do. And it certainly sounds like, yeah, St. Croix gives you lots of options for that. I mean, again, that's very important.
And lots of salsa dancing too.
Sure, if you're into that. And well, Jan, thanks so much. This is great. And as normally happens in interviews like this, I learned a couple of things, and I very much hope those who decided to see this conversation also enjoyed this. So thanks so much.
Can I talk about my Downsizers Club real quick?
Please, yes.
So I host a free Downsizers Club on the first Friday of every month via Zoom, and it's 1 hour, and it's a small support type of group where we share resources and ideas and discuss challenges, celebrate successes, and I give people homework every month so they can focus on one area and not be overwhelmed. Because some of these people are 4 years away from moving. They get on the club to get ideas, start slowly, and I've had a lot of graduates, fortunately, but it's like I said, the first Friday of every month on Zoom. You can register at capitalseniorsolutions.com on the seminars page, and love to see some new faces there.
Oh, I would very much recommend that, because that's the topic of our conversation today. And if anyone is interested in more in-depth conversation, that's the place to be.
Yep, or they can reach out to me directly anytime.
Or they can reach out to you.
Yes.